Hi, everybody. Welcome to our YouTube video. Today, I would like to talk to you about Martin Heidegger's book, History of the Concept of Time. Specifically, I would like us to take a look at the introduction, paragraph 2. Paragraph 2 talks about history as an area of study and nature. What does Heidegger want to do here? He is claiming the goal is to see history and nature, but from a perspective that pretends, so to speak, as if there was no scientific treatment of these yet. He wants to go back to the basics and get rid of any preconceptions, any scientific systems that might have been superimposed. Because in the first paragraph of this book, he says that when we have all these preconceptions that, for example, science put on things, definitions, descriptions, systematic divisions, that these actually can hinder our view, because that is a limiting view. When we have set categories, we might not be able to see anything that is outside of those categories. Good point, right? And that is why he is saying we should look at history and nature with a view that lies before any scientific descriptions. Let's pretend those are not there. And he says what we should do here is we should explore history and nature within, as he says, the horizon of the concept of time. Why? Sounds a little weird, as he himself admits in the text. Why would you want to do that? To take the view of time when going back to the basics of nature and history. Well, then he gets, in paragraph 2, he gets to the explanation, the justification. Why would we want to do it this way? Well, the justification for the approach of looking at history and nature through the lens of time is that he says the Wirklichkeit, which means the reality. Wirklich is in German real. Wirklichkeit is reality. The justification is that in reality, he says that both nature and history are, let me quote here in German, Ablaufszusammenhänge in der Zeit. This is on page 7. What in the world does that mean? Well, it means when we look at nature and history, what do they have in common? These are process connections within time. True, because when we look at nature, you put a seed in the ground, it grows, and these are processes that are happening in time and are, as Heidegger says, taken as such. History, of course, is not possible either without looking at the passing and the flow of time. So nature and history have time at the root of them. To go back to the natural sciences, Heidegger says that, for example, in physics, you cannot have physics without, again, quote, the measurement of time. In physics, time is a key component. Of course, research into history, he says, is also absolutely unthinkable without, and I quote, Zeitordnung. And that is an interesting word. Zeit means time, and Ordnung means ordering, and order. So right when we look at history, what we do have, we create an order of things, a chronological ordering of events. So as you can see, both nature and history have time at the very root of them. And that is why he says we need to go back to that and look at both of these through the lens of time. Then he makes the point that actually time is used to divide areas of knowledge. Let me explain. What does he mean by that? For instance, he says that both history and nature, as we saw, are processes of flow, processes that happen within time. And these he calls zeitlich. These are temporal. Second, he says there are things that are not within time, but they're outside of time. They're außerzeitlich, outside of time, or extra temporal. And by definition, what does that mean? I looked this up, and on wordsense.eu, extratemporal means something that appears to happen outside of time. Heidegger gives the example of mathematics. Now, I think this is a little bit, for me, a little bit of a point that could be discussed, because sure, we could say even 200 years ago, 2 plus 2 equaled 4, and that has not changed. However, I would argue that mathematics in that sense is outside of time, because it is certain truths in mathematics are unchangeable, like that 2 plus 2 example. However, people who work on mathematical problems, well, they work within time, right? So I think maybe we could say that the results and the conclusions that have been accepted as true are timeless, but the process, of course, of doing the research and the mathematics, I would say that is within time, because that is connected to real human beings who are working today in time, within time. Third, he says, then there is a different category. So far we've had temporal, we have extratemporal, and then he adds a third one to that, and that is called überzeitlich. And über means above. It's above or beyond time. And that is, as he explains it, connected to eternity. That goes into the direction of theology and spirituality. So here, I would say this is the beyond time is something that has to do with a belief, with a spiritual, there is a spiritual core and a spiritual belief to it. The main point, though, is that time underlies divisions into areas of knowledge, and that both history and nature are rooted in time because they're both processes. Thank you for listening. I appreciate your attention and hope to see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabine. I really enjoyed it. And Jim, if you have any comments, just unmute yourself. It's really good. I was able to follow along in the English version.